Welcome to a fascinating journey through the dark corridors of history, where the secrets of the Cold War unfold before us with a mix of awe and horror. In this video, we delve into 10 experiments and projects that defined an era, revealing the intricate plot of human ambition and the desire for power. From the shadows of the CIA to the mysterious confines of space, each story is a mirage of what we know as reality. Prepare to pull back the veil of history and discover the darkest secrets of the Cold War. Project Blue Book. In the depths of cosmic mystery, Project Blue Book stands as an enigma that defies the boundaries of our understanding. From March 1952 to its completion on December 17, 1969, the United States Air Force embarked on a systematic odyssey in the investigation of unidentified flying objects. Based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, and under the initial direction of Captain Edward Joseph Ruppelt, this project followed in the wake of its predecessors, Project Sign of 1947 and Project Grudge of 1948. Blue Book's goals were clear and ambitious: to determine whether UFOs posed a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze data related to UFOs. Thousands of UFO reports were meticulously collected, analyzed, and archived. The Condon Report, concluding that the study of UFOs was unlikely to yield major scientific discoveries, and a review of the report by the National Academy of Sciences, led to the termination of Project Blue Book in 1969. The Air Force provided a revealing summary of its investigations. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force ever indicated a threat to our national security. No evidence was found to indicate that sightings categorized as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond modern scientific knowledge. And no evidence was found to indicate that sightings categorized as unidentified were extraterrestrial vehicles. Upon concluding Project Blue Book, 12,618 UFO reports had been compiled, and it was concluded that most of them were misidentifications of natural phenomena, clouds, stars, etc., or conventional aircraft. According to the National Reconnaissance Office, several of the reports could be explained by flights of the secret reconnaissance planes, U-2 and A-12. 701 reports were classified as unexplainable even after rigorous analysis. UFO reports were filed and are available under the Freedom of Information Act, but the names and other personal information of all witnesses have been redacted. Previous projects of Project Blue Book, such as Project Sign, initiated in late 1947, and Project Grudge, Sign's successor in late 1948, laid the groundwork for this intrepid quest for knowledge. Despite controversy and skepticism, Project Blue Book persisted in its mission, led by figures like Captain Ruppelt, who implemented significant changes and sought consultation from experts and scientists. Under Ruppelt's direction, Project Blue Book investigated notorious UFO cases, such as the Lubbock Lights and a highly publicized radar visual case in Washington, D.C. in 1952. Astronomer Joseph Allen Hynek, scientific consultant to the project, went from pronounced skepticism to fluctuating doubt throughout the investigation, after encountering a handful of UFO reports he considered unexplainable. The Robertson Panel, established in July 1952 following a series of sightings, played a crucial role in the history of Project Blue Book. This panel, composed of eminent scientists, reviewed the best data collected by Project Blue Book and concluded that most UFO reports had prosaic explanations, although some remained unexplained. The Robertson Panel's recommendation to dismiss the UFO topic and embark on a discrediting campaign marked a decisive turn in the Air Force's approach to UFO investigation. Despite efforts to rationalize and debunk UFO reports, Project Blue Book faced increasing criticism in the 60s. Civil UFO research groups like NICAP accused the United States government of covering up UFO evidence. Following United States congressional hearings, the Condon Committee was established in 1966 as a supposedly neutral scientific research body. However, the committee became embroiled in controversies and criticisms over its scientific rigor and conclusions. Ultimately, the Condon Committee suggested that there was nothing extraordinary about UFOs and, while leaving a small percentage of cases unexplained, argued that future research was unlikely to yield significant results. In response to the Condon Committee's findings, Air Force Secretary Robert Channing Siemens, Jr. announced that Project Blue Book would soon be closed, as further funding could not be justified either on the grounds of national security or in the interest of science. With the closure of Project Blue Book on December 17, 1969, an era of official UFO research came to an end. Although the project concluded, UFO reports continue to evoke fascination and debate. leading many to question what mysteries may still be hidden in the confines of the known universe. Operation Paperclip. In the shadows of the post-war period, a secret stirred the depths of American intelligence. Operation Paperclip. This initiative, woven into the tapestry of Cold War history, was a bold maneuver by the United States to gain an edge in the nascent confrontation with the Soviet Union. Between 1945 and 1959, more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians plucked from the ashes of Nazi Germany were brought to American soil. The Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, JIOA, and the United States Army's Counterintelligence Corps, CIC, executed this operation with precision and stealth. Many of these Germans, like shadows of their past, had been members and even leaders of the Nazi Party. In the spring of 1945, the Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, SHAEF, created Force T, a division of special sections that grew to over 2,000 people by June. They investigated 5,000 German targets, seeking expertise in areas like synthetic rubber, oil catalysts, new armors, V-2 weapons, rocket-propelled and jet aircraft, naval equipment, and more. The mission was clear: capture German knowledge to strengthen the American arsenal. With the detection of numerous German scientists by advancing Allied forces in April 1945, the Special Sections Subdivision established the Enemy Personnel Exploitation Section to handle and interrogate these individuals. A detention center, Dustbin, was first established in Paris, and then at Kransberg Castle near Frankfurt. The United States Joint Chiefs of Staff established the first secret recruitment program, named Operation Overcast, on July 20, 1945. Originally conceived to assist in the war effort in the Pacific, its scope soon expanded. In November 1945, Operation Overcast was renamed Operation Paperclip. Officers of the Artillery Corps attached a paperclip to the folders of those rocket experts they wished to employ in the United States. A simple gesture, but with profound implications. Although the project was not initially directed against the Soviet Union, it soon became a race to prevent German scientists from emigrating to other neutral countries, or, worse, to the Soviet Union. The United States focused its efforts on Saxony and Thuringia, which from July 1, 1945, became part of the Soviet occupation zone. The Soviet Union moved more than 2,200 Nazi specialists and their families, more than 6,000 people in total, with Operation Osoaviakim in a single night on October 22, 1946. In September 1946, President Truman officially approved Operation Paperclip, expanding it to include 1,000 German scientists under temporary and limited military custody. The existence of the program was revealed to the media in December 1946. Within the chaos of World War II, Germany faced logistical disadvantages, exacerbated by the failure of Operation Barbarossa and its push toward the Caucasus. German resources were depleted, and its military-industrial complex was ill-prepared to defend the Greater German Reich against the Red Army's counteroffensive. In 1943, the German government began calling scientists, engineers, and technicians from combat to work in research and development. The Osenberg List, created by engineer Werner Osenberg, recorded the names of these politically reliable men, reinstating them in scientific work. The Osenberg List, found in a toilet at the University of Bonn in March 1945, fell into British and then American hands. Major Robert Staver, chief of the Jet Propulsion Section of the Artillery Corps' Research and Intelligence Branch, used the list to compile his own, headed by Werner von Braun, Germany's top rocket scientist. The capture and detention of German scientists became a meticulous operation. The Combined Intelligence Objectives Subcommittee, CIOS, provided intelligence targets for the T-forces, focusing on advanced technology like infrared and halting enemy research. Operation Safe Haven sought to prevent the emigration of German scientists to countries hostile to the United States. Despite efforts to maintain secrecy, the press interviewed several scientists in late 1945. In 1947, this evacuation operation had netted approximately 1,800 technicians and scientists and 3,700 family members. Some with special skills were taken to detention and interrogation centers to be held and interrogated for months. In 1949, the United States Army's Chief of Ordnance designated Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, as the Artillery Rocket Center, its facility for rocket research and development. On April 1, 1950, the Fort Bliss Missile Development Operation, including von Braun and his team of over 130 Paperclip members, was moved to Redstone Arsenal. Between 1945 and 1952, the United States Air Force sponsored the largest number of Paperclip scientists, importing 260 men. 86 aeronautical engineers were moved to Wright Field, Ohio, and the United States Army Signal Corps employed 24 specialists. In 1959, 94 men from Operation Paperclip moved to the United States, including Friedward Winterberg and Friedrich Wiegand. In total, by 1990, Operation Paperclip imported 1,600 men as part of the intellectual reparations owed to the United States and the United Kingdom, valued at $10 billion in patents and industrial processes. Operation Paperclip was not only a transfer of scientific knowledge, but also an operation surrounded by controversy and ethical questions. Despite its undeniable impact on American science and technology, the shadow of its participants' Nazi links persists, a constant reminder of the moral complexity and difficult decisions in times of war and post-war. Project MKUltra. In the 50s, a shadow of mystery and controversy began to form in the corridors of power in the United States. Project MKUltra, a series of clandestine human experiments orchestrated by the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and designed to unravel the secrets of the human mind, would mark a dark chapter in contemporary history. As Stephen Kinzer, an American historian, would later point out, the CIA had created a continuation of the Nazi experiments, a statement that plunged this project into the shadows of history and ethics. Starting in 1953 and culminating in 1973, MKUltra sought to develop drugs and techniques to weaken and manipulate the human psyche. Using methods such as the covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs, especially LSD, electroshocks, and psychological torture. These experiments were often conducted without the subject's consent, a blatant disregard for human rights and scientific ethics. Project Artichoke, the predecessor of MKUltra, had already laid the groundwork for these experiments. The CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence, in coordination with the United States Army's Biological Warfare Laboratories, carried out illegal activities, including the use of American and Canadian citizens as unwitting test subjects. The scope of MKUltra was broad, involving more than 80 institutions, including universities, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies, many of which were unaware of the CIA's involvement in their research. The truth about MKUltra began to come to light in 1975, when the United States Congress's Church Committee and President Gerald Ford's Rockefeller Commission publicly revealed the existence of this program. However, the investigation was hindered by the order from the CIA director, Richard Helms, to destroy all MKUltra files in 1973. Only a small number of surviving documents allowed some light to be shed on the activities of this dark project. One of the central figures in this web was Sidney Gottlieb, who approved an MKUltra subproject on LSD in 1953. During the early 40s, Nazi scientists had conducted interrogation experiments in the Auschwitz and Dachau camps, using substances like barbiturates and hallucinogens. These experiments sought to develop a truth serum that, in the words of a laboratory assistant of the Nazi scientist Kurt Plutner, eliminated the will of the person examined. American interest in drug-related experiments dates back to 1943, when the Office of Strategic Services began developing a truth serum to produce uninhibited truthfulness in an interrogated person. Project Bluebird, initiated in 1950 by the CIA under the direction of General Walter Bedell Smith, and later renamed Project Artichoke, sought to determine whether an individual could be involuntarily induced to perform an act of attempted assassination. Artichoke's experiments included the administration of morphine, mescaline, and LSD to CIA agents without their knowledge, in an attempt to produce amnesia in the subjects. MKUltra, under the direction of Gottlieb but initiated by order of CIA Director Allen Dulles in April 1953, aimed to develop mind control drugs for use against the Soviet bloc, in response to the alleged use of mind control techniques by the Soviets, Chinese, and North Koreans on American prisoners of war during the Korean War. The CIA wanted to use similar methods on their own captives, and was interested in manipulating foreign leaders with such techniques, devising various plans to drug Fidel Castro. MKUltra's experiments included administering LSD to mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, and prostitutes, often without their knowledge or consent, in a clear violation of the Nuremberg Code, which the United States had agreed to follow after World War II. In Operation Midnight Climax, the CIA established several brothels within agency safehouses in San Francisco to obtain a selection of men who would be too embarrassed to speak about the events. The men were drugged with LSD, the brothels were equipped with one-way mirrors, and the sessions were filmed for later viewing and study. In Canada, the CIA exported experiments when it recruited Scottish psychiatrist Donald Ewan Cameron, creator of the psychic driving concept, which the CIA found interesting. Cameron had been hoping to correct schizophrenia by erasing existing memories and reprogramming the psyche. He traveled from Albany, New York to Montreal each week to work at McGill University's Allen Memorial Institute and received $69,000 between 1957 and 1964 to conduct MK-Ultra experiments there. Research funds for the Montreal experiments were sent to Cameron by a CIA front organization, the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology. And, as shown in CIA internal documents, Cameron did not know the money came from the CIA. Cameron's motivations and evaluations of the experiments were inspired and parallel to those of British psychiatrist William Sargant at St. Thomas's Hospital in London, and Belmont Hospital Sutton, who was also involved in the Secret Intelligence Service and experimented on his patients without their consent, causing similar long-term damage. In the 1980s, several former patients of Cameron sued the CIA for damages, an event that was documented by the Canadian news program The Fifth Estate. Their experiences and lawsuit were adapted into the 1998 television miniseries The Sleep Room. Naomi Klein argues in her book, The Shock Doctrine, that Cameron's research and his contribution to the MKUltra project were not about mind control and brainwashing, but about designing a scientifically based system for extracting information from resistant sources. In other words, torture. Alfred William McCoy asserts that the CIA attempted to focus media attention on these types of ridiculous programs so that the public would not look at the main goal of the research, which were effective methods of interrogation. MKUltra's experiments had lasting effects, and their ethical implications continue to resonate today. Although many of its details remain in the shadows due to the destruction of records, this project remains a grim reminder of the dangers inherent in unchecked power and the pursuit of knowledge without consideration for human dignity. Project Stargate. In the most hidden recesses of American military history, there lies a narrative so enigmatic, it seems lifted from a science fiction novel. This is the story of Project Stargate, a secret initiative of the United States Army, founded in 1978 at Fort Meade, Maryland. The project, led by the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and SRI International, a California contractor, ventured into the mysterious world of psychic phenomena, seeking military and domestic intelligence applications, under names as varied as Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Center Lane, and others. This project consolidated in 1991 under the name Stargate Project. The heart of Project Stargate beat to the rhythm of remote viewing, that supposed ability to psychically see events, sights, or information at great distances. Supervised until 1987 by Lieutenant Frederick Holmes Skip Atwater, and later by the president of the Monroe Institute, this small team, consisting of 15 to 20 individuals, operated from an old and dilapidated wooden barrack. But like all stories shrouded in mystery, Project Stargate found its end. In 1995, following a CIA report that concluded its uselessness in intelligence operations, the project was shut down and declassified. The data provided by the program were vague, irrelevant, and often incorrect, raising suspicions about its reliability. This intriguing initiative even inspired the 2004 book and 2009 movie titled The Men Who Stare at Goats, although neither directly mentioned the project. The origin of Project Stargate dates back to a time of mystery and conjecture. Information in the United States about psychic research in other countries was scarce, and mostly based on rumors or insinuations from unreliable sources. It was this nebula of uncertainty that prompted the CIA and DIA to delve into this unknown realm, funding various programs and reviewing them semi-annually at the level of select Senate and House committees. The work of these remote visionaries, kept secret even from themselves, was imbued with a mystery that defied conventional understanding. The 70s marked the heyday of remote viewing, with Project Stargate seeking answers in the unknown. In 1970, the United States believed that the Soviet Union was investing 60 million rubles annually in psychotronic research. In response, the CIA initiated the Skinate program, and soon, physicists Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff began testing psychics at the Stanford Research Institute, including the future international celebrity Uri Geller. But it was not all a bed of roses. Skeptic Ray Hyman discredited Geller, causing the loss of government funding to work with him. However, this did not stop Targ and Puthoff, who continued to seek private funding for their research. A milestone of the project was the location of a lost Soviet spy plane in 1976 by Rosemary Smith, a young administrative assistant recruited by the project director, Dale Graff. However, as time progressed, challenges multiplied, and Army funding ended in the 80s, although the project continued under other names and auspices. The 90s brought with it the consolidation and decline of Project Stargate. In 1991, most of the program's contracts were transferred from SRI to the Scientific Applications International Corporation, SAIC, with Edwin May controlling a large part of the project's funds and data. However, the lack of conclusive evidence about the efficacy of remote viewing led the CIA to assume oversight in 1995, ultimately concluding its closure. The shutdown of Project Stargate in 1995 marked the end of an era in military psychic research. A retrospective report questioned the validity of its results, and although a statistically significant effect was observed in the laboratory, the nature and origin of remote viewing remained a mystery. The information provided was too vague and ambiguous, making it difficult to use in intelligence operations. In January 2017, the CIA released online the records of Project Stargate as part of the CREST archive, opening a fascinating chapter of history to public curiosity. The project's methodology attempted to scientize clairvoyance and out-of-body experiences, coining the term remote viewing to describe this more structured approach. Despite its attempts to apply scientific rigor, the project, in its quest for the unknown, faced skepticism and mystery until its last day. Project Stargate, with its story of clairvoyance and psychic visions, became an icon of intrigue and mystery in the realm of military intelligence. Despite its closure, it remains a testament to the eternal human quest to understand and harness the mysterious confines of our minds. Operation Gladio. In the somber atmosphere of the post-war period, Operation Gladio emerged, a term that became synonymous with mystery and conspiracy. This initiative, launched by the Western Union in 1948, and later assumed by NATO and the CIA, represented a network of covert, stay-behind operations in Europe during the Cold War. Gladio, though specifically referring to the Italian branch, has become a generic term for all similar operations. These secret cells were ready to act behind enemy lines in case of a Soviet invasion, notes a researcher of those times, immersing us in a tale of espionage and preparation for the unthinkable. The heart of the operation lay in tactics that bordered on the macabre, from assassinations and psychological warfare to false flag operations to discredit left-wing parties in Western Europe. It was an undeclared war where the ends justified the means, highlights a report from the time, while the United States Department of State denies supporting terrorists, arguing that Gladio's sole purpose was to resist a potential Soviet invasion. This contrast between perception and official reality leads us to question the true intentions behind these covert acts. Looking back in time, we find the origins of this strategy in World War II. Winston Churchill created the SOE to support resistance movements in occupied Europe, a decision that would later shape the stay-behind structure. The revelation of a secret network in Britain, prepared for a possible Nazi invasion, shows us how the echoes of war continued to resonate long after its conclusion. It was a shadow in the darkness waiting to be activated, recounts an SOE veteran, illustrating the tension and expectation of an era marked by uncertainty and fear. In the post-war period, the United Kingdom and the United States embarked on creating stay-behind paramilitary organizations. These units, formed by former SOE officers, were intended to operate behind enemy lines in case of a Soviet invasion. It was an invisible wall against communism, states an intelligence officer of that time, revealing the covert nature and strategic importance of these operations. NATO facilitated a forum for integrating and coordinating these assets as part of its emergency war plan, unifying efforts internationally and evidencing the magnitude of Western concern about the Soviet threat. In Italy, the revelation of the Italian Gladio in 1990 by Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti shook the nation. This discovery shed light on a series of covert interventions and connections to terrorism, causing a stir in Italian society. It was a shock to discover such a deep and dark network, says an Italian journalist, marking a turning point in public perception of Cold War secret operations. Over the years, judicial investigations have revealed disturbing links between these secret networks and acts of terrorism in Europe. It was a war in the shadows, where civilians often became pawns, reveals an Italian judge who investigated these links, offering a bleak view of how covert warfare tactics can transcend moral and legal boundaries. In response to accusations of false flag operations, the United States Department of State denied in 1996 any involvement in terrorism, attributing these stories to Cold War-era disinformation. Gladio was meant to be a bulwark against invasion, not an instigator of terror, states a Department of State spokesperson. This official defense contrasts with narratives of covert operations and conspiracies, raising questions about the version of history that has prevailed. Today, Operation Gladio remains a topic of intense debate and controversy. It's a dark chapter in Cold War history that's still shrouded in mystery, concludes a modern historian. Gladio, with its roots in necessity and fear, serves as a reminder of the complexities of international politics and the extremes to which nations are willing to go in the name of security. Project Sunshine. In 1953, a project shrouded in mystery and controversy was born under the name Project Sunshine. This ambitious project, conceived by the United States Atomic Energy Commission and the USAF's RAND project, delved into the study of the impact of radioactive fallout on the global population. Project Sunshine, initially kept secret, came to light in 1956, revealing a scenario that combined advanced science with deep ethical concerns. On January 18, 1955, AEC Commissioner Willard Libby highlighted the pressing need for human samples, especially from children, to analyze the effects of radioactive fallout. Libby emphasized the critical importance of these samples, even suggesting that body snatching would be a patriotic service. This comment would be the prelude to a practice that would trigger great controversy: the use of over 1,500 cadaver samples, many of which were babies and small children, without the consent or knowledge of their parents. In 1958, Project Sunshine expanded to Belgium, adopting a slightly different approach by analyzing soils in agricultural regions instead of human bones. Belgian scientists, seeking to understand the effect of strontium-90 in soils and its transfer to the food chain, conducted research both in natural and controlled conditions. The impact of strontium-90 in cow's milk, a topic of vital importance for public health, was addressed in 1957 by Whitlock, Director of Health Education at the National Dairy Products Council in Chicago. Whitlock argued that the effects of strontium-90 would not be harmful to the general population of the United States, comparing the naturally present radioactivity, like potassium-40, with that generated by radioactive fallout. Project Sunshine, with its studies and controversies, became an example of the complexity of scientific research in the nuclear era. The tensions between scientific advancement, ethics, and public safety intertwined in this project, offering a mirror of the concerns of an era marked by the nuclear threat. Operation Chaos. In the depths of the Cold War, between 1967 and 1974, a CIA domestic espionage operation known as Operation Chaos, or MH Chaos, emerged from the shadows. Established by President Lyndon B. Johnson and expanded under Richard Nixon, this operation, directed by Richard Helms and executed by James Jesus Angleton and Richard Ober, had a disquieting mission: to uncover possible foreign influence on racial protest movements, anti-war movements, and others on American soil. The distinctive MH in its name alluded to its global area of operations, a detail that foreshadowed the breadth and darkness of its activities. The backdrop of chaos dates back to 1959, when the CIA began domestic operations to recruit Cuban exiles against Fidel Castro. With the formation of the Domestic Operations Division in 1964 and Johnson's request in 1965 to investigate domestic dissent, independent of the FBI, the CIA ventured into murky territory, bordering on legality and ethics. The ambiguity of its initial mandate, which did not specify a prohibition on collecting domestic intelligence, would turn into a series of programs that spied on American citizens. Under the shadow of national security, Operation Chaos and related projects like H-Tlingual and Merrimack delved into the heart of American dissent. From intercepting letters between the United States and the Soviet Union, to infiltrating anti-war movements and radical organizations, the CIA secretly sought to undermine any perceived foreign influence. With Nixon's rise in 1969, these activities consolidated into chaos, expanding their reach through methods like physical surveillance and electronic eavesdropping, even going as far as to spy on the Israeli embassy and domestic Jewish groups. Chaos operations were not limited to passive observation. Their tentacles extended to prominent groups of the time, such as the Students for a Democratic Society and the Black Panther Party. At the end of its execution, Chaos had accumulated files on 7,200 Americans and a computer index of approximately 300,000 individuals and 1,000 groups, a chilling testimony to its scope. Despite Chaos's ambition to uncover illegal and subversive contacts between American protesters and foreign elements, Helms reported to Johnson in 1967 and repeated in 1969 that no evidence of such contact had been found. The project, after generating 6 reports for the White House and 34 for cabinet-level officials, would be revealed as a profound and controversial invasion of citizens' privacy. The exposure of Operation Chaos came in 1974, when investigative journalist Seymour Hersh published an article in the New York Times, unleashing a scandal that coincided with the climax of Watergate. In response to public outrage and government pressure, the Rockefeller Commission was launched to investigate these activities, a move that would reveal the CIA's intrusion into domestic affairs. George Walker Bush, then CIA director, admitted that the operation resulted in an undue accumulation of material on legitimate domestic activities, a tacit acknowledgement that the line between national security and civil rights had been dangerously crossed. Project HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. On the frontiers of our atmosphere, where science meets imagination, lies the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, a project of the University of Alaska Fairbanks. This mysterious program, studying the ionosphere, the highest and ionized part of the Earth's atmosphere, has been both a center of scientific research and a focal point for conspiracy theories. The most prominent instrument at HAARP is the Ionospheric Research Instrument, IRI, a high-power radio frequency transmitter operating in the high-frequency HF band. This powerful device is designed to temporarily excite a limited area of the ionosphere, using other instruments like VHF and UHF radars, a fluxgate magnetometer, a digisonde, an ionospheric sounding device, and an induction magnetometer to study physical processes in the excited region. Jointly funded by the United States Air Force, the United States Navy, the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, HAARP was designed and built by BAE Advanced Technologies. From its inception in 1993 to its completion in 2007, the project amassed about $250 million in construction and operation costs, funded by taxpayers. In 2014, its definitive closure was announced, although the University of Alaska Fairbanks assumed control in 2015, keeping the facilities available for researchers on a pay-for-use basis. HAARP, with its mysterious presence and its ability to manipulate the ionosphere, has been the subject of countless conspiracy theories, accusing it of being capable of controlling the weather and manipulating minds. Commentators and scientists have refuted these claims, arguing that they fall outside the facility's capabilities, and, in many cases, outside the realm of natural science. The history of the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program dates back to 1990. United States Senator Ted Stevens, a Republican from Alaska, played a crucial role in the approval of the project, which began construction in 1993. The temporary pause of operations in May 2013, described as a change in the contractor regime and the subsequent management by ATNA, Incorporated, the Alaska Native Corporation where HAARP is located, marked turning points in the project's history. The HAARP project directs a 3.6 megawatt signal in the 2.8 to 10 megahertz range of the HF band towards the ionosphere. This signal, which can be pulsed or continuous, is examined using associated instrumentation, allowing HAARP scientists to advance the study of basic natural processes occurring in the ionosphere. Insights gained at HAARP have enabled scientists to develop methods to mitigate these effects, improving the reliability and performance of communication and navigation systems. Originally funded by the Office of Naval Research and jointly managed by the ONR and the Air Force Research Laboratory, with significant participation from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, HAARP has been a collaborative effort of many universities and educational centers in the United States, playing a crucial role in the development of the project and its instruments. Research at HAARP focuses on the basic science of the highest part of the atmosphere, the ionosphere, a transition between the atmosphere and the magnetosphere, where the air is thin enough for X-rays and UV rays from the sun to reach but thick enough for there to be enough molecules present to absorb those rays. Various aspects of HAARP can study all the major layers of the ionosphere, a region that is traditionally very difficult to measure. The main instrument of HAARP is the IRI, a high-power, high-frequency radio transmitter with an array of 180 antennas, arranged in a 12 by 15 unit matrix occupying a rectangle of about 30 to 40 acres. During active ionospheric research, the signal generated by the transmitter system is delivered to the antenna array and transmitted upward, temporarily energizing a small portion of the ionosphere. HAARP has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories, with individuals speculating about hidden motivations and capabilities of the project. These accusations range from weather manipulation and earthquake induction to mind control and disruption of satellite signals. Despite the extravagant claims, scientists have repeatedly refuted these theories, stating that the capabilities attributed to HAARP are beyond its actual possibilities, and, in many cases, beyond the limits of science. In popular culture, HAARP has become a recurring theme, inspiring everything from music albums to video games and television series. For example, the rock band Muse released a live album titled HAARP, and the project has been the subject of novels like La Route de Gacona by Jean-Paul Jody. Additionally, HAARP has appeared in video games like X-Men Legends and in the television series 7 Days. HAARP continues to be a focal point in the scientific field and a point of fascination in the world of conspiracy and popular culture. As the project continues its research and the world changes around it, HAARP's legacy remains a testament to the human desire to understand the mysteries of our planet and the space around it. Operation Northwoods. In the shadows of the Cold War, Operation Northwoods stands as a dark chapter in the history of United States covert tactics. Conceived in 1962 by the Department of Defense, this plan proposed a series of acts of terrorism to be perpetrated by CIA agents, but falsely attributed to the Cuban government. These sinister acts included the remote control of civilian planes disguised as United States military aircraft and the fictitious downing of a United States fighter plane near Cuban shores. The purpose: to justify a war against Cuba. The core of the operation lay in the United States' fear of Fidel Castro's communism, who had assumed power in Cuba in 1959, alarming the United States with its proximity to the Soviet Union. Operation Northwoods aimed to manufacture public support for a war by falsely attributing terrorist acts to the Cuban government. This intricate plan included additional proposals, such as terrorist campaigns in Miami and other Florida cities, as well as in Washington, all intended to paint a false image of Castro and misinform the American public. Drafted by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and signed by Chairman Lyman Lemnitzer, the operation was submitted to the Secretary of Defense, but never received the green light. It was authorized by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but subsequently rejected by President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. The details of Operation Northwoods were revealed in a document titled Justification for United States Military Intervention in Cuba, TS, a set of secret memos from the Department of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Submitted to Robert McNamara, Secretary of Defense in 1962. The document proposed both covert and overt operations. The existence of this document was kept secret until its disclosure by the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Assassination Records Review Board in 1997. The Appendix to Enclosure A and the Annex to Appendix to Enclosure A of the Northwoods document, containing the proposals to organize false flag terrorist attacks, were first published online in 1998 by the National Security Archive, in collaboration with CNN. At the heart of Operation Northwoods lay meticulously planned provocations, devised by Brigadier General Edward Lansdale. These false flag provocations sought international support for military intervention in Cuba. The plan contemplated various stages, such as provoking a reaction from Cuba against the United States and blaming it for hostilities in Guantanamo, followed by offensive operations and eventual large-scale United States military intervention. Simultaneously, under the Operation Mongoose program, the United States Department of Defense presented similar proposals against Fidel Castro's regime. These proposals, coming from a 1962 memorandum, complemented Operation Northwoods and reflected the depth of United States covert strategies. The reaction to Operation Northwoods was decisive. In June 1963, Kennedy delivered a speech at American University, extending a peace offer to the Soviet Union and rejecting the operation. This decision marked a turning point in United States-Cuba relations during the Cold War. The documentation of Operation Northwoods was declassified in 1992, revealing 4 million documents, including this covert operation. It was not until 1997 that the public learned of its existence, after the publication of James Bamford's book, Body of Secrets. Finally, on August 3, 2001, the National Assembly of People's Power of Cuba issued a statement condemning the United States government's plans revealed in Operation Northwoods and Operation Mongoose. This condemnation reflected the ongoing tension between Cuba and the United States, a legacy of Cold War covert tactics and strategies. Operation Northwoods stands as a chilling testament to how far United States authorities were willing to go in the game of the Cold War. Its proposals, ranging from remote control of civilian planes to acts of terrorism in United States cities, show a willingness to use extreme deceptions to achieve political objectives. This plan, rejected by Kennedy, highlights the complex interplay between ethics, politics, and military strategy in a period defined by distrust and hostility between superpowers. Beyond its immediate implications in United States politics, Operation Northwoods raises profound questions about the nature of war, propaganda, and the use of deception in international relations. The revelation of such proposals, years later, sparked significant debate over the limits of military and intelligence operations, especially regarding the manipulation of public opinion and the conduct of false flag acts. Ultimately, the story of Operation Northwoods serves as a cautionary reminder of the dangers inherent in the power plays of the Cold War. It illustrates how, in the name of national security and foreign policy, strategies can be conceived that cross the boundaries of ethics and international law. Although never implemented, its mere proposal leaves an indelible mark on the history of United States covert operations and resonates as a somber echo of what might have been in a world consumed by distrust and fear. Project Manhattan. The Manhattan Project, an initiative that profoundly transformed the trajectory of humanity, began its journey in a context of urgency and challenge. Under the looming shadow of the Third Reich, the United States, with the backing of the United Kingdom and Canada, set forth on a titanic mission to develop a nuclear weapon before Germany. From 1942 to 1946, this endeavor, led by Major General Leslie Groves and the prominent nuclear physicist Robert Oppenheimer, unfolded on a scale and with an intensity unprecedented in the history of science and technology. The scope of the Manhattan Project was astronomical, both in human and financial resources. Approximately 130,000 people were involved, and the cost amounted to $2 billion of the time, a figure that today would equate to about $26 billion. This vast expenditure was primarily allocated to the construction of infrastructure and the production of fissile material, with a smaller, yet no less crucial percentage for the development and manufacturing of nuclear weapons. This project transcended borders, spreading across more than 30 sites in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, becoming a true example of international collaboration in times of crisis. At the heart of the Manhattan Project lay two unprecedented technological innovations: the atomic bombs Little Boy and Fat Man. While Little Boy employed a relatively simple gun-type fission mechanism based on uranium-235, Fat Man represented a more complex feat of engineering, a nuclear implosion bomb using plutonium. These advancements were not mere scientific achievements. They were the keys that unlocked a new era in warfare technology. But the Manhattan Project was not solely focused on building devastating weapons. An integral part of its mission was the gathering of intelligence on the German nuclear project. Through Operation Alsos, project personnel infiltrated Europe, even behind enemy lines, to collect nuclear materials and documents and capture German scientists. This facet of the project underscores the multifaceted nature of war on the scientific front, where information gathering was as vital as weapon production. Despite the Manhattan Project's strict security measures, it was not immune to infiltrations. Soviet spies managed to access its secrets, demonstrating that even the most guarded projects are not completely shielded against enemy intelligence. This security breach revealed the complexity of maintaining total confidentiality for a project of such magnitude. The detonation that marked a milestone in the Manhattan Project's history was the Trinity test, conducted on July 16, 1945 in New Mexico. This was the first nuclear device to be detonated, an event that was not only a technical triumph but also a moment of profound reflection on the power humanity had unleashed. The Trinity test was the prelude to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the bombs Little Boy and Fat Man were used with devastating consequences. These acts not only changed the course of World War II, but also raised ethical and moral questions that still resonate in contemporary debate. In the years following the war, the Manhattan Project continued to leave its mark. It conducted weapon tests at Bikini Atoll as part of Operation Crossroads, developed new weapons, spurred the development of a network of national laboratories, supported medical research in radiology, and laid the groundwork for the United States nuclear navy. This legacy was reflected not only in military advancements, but also in the scientific and technological breakthroughs that emerged from this period of intense research and development. The Manhattan Project also played a pivotal role in international collaboration, absorbing and expanding the research of its British counterpart, Tube Alloys. With President Roosevelt's approval on October 9, 1941, the project gained significant momentum. The involvement of key figures such as Vannevar Bush, Vice President Henry Wallace, Secretary of War Henry Louis Stimson, and Army Chief of Staff General George Marshall underscored the strategic and political importance of the project. Coordination with the British and the focus on uranium-235 and plutonium led to multiple advances in isotope separation and nuclear reactor technology. Research and experiments in Chicago and California during 1942 brought together some of the era's brightest theoretical and experimental physicists. Their joint efforts confirmed the viability of a fission bomb, paving the way for future developments in nuclear weapons. Exploring the properties of uranium-235 and the newly discovered plutonium was crucial to the design of the bombs, which involved complex configurations and the possibility of autocatalytic methods to increase the efficiency of the explosions. The Manhattan Project was not just a scientific and military effort. It was an initiative that changed the paradigm of how humanity understands and utilizes nuclear energy. This multifaceted project not only led to the development of nuclear weapons, but also marked the beginning of the atomic age, with profound implications for international politics, security, and scientific progress. The ability to mobilize resources, talent, and knowledge on an unprecedented scale established a model for future scientific and technological research projects worldwide. The legacy of the Manhattan Project remains a reminder of the ethical responsibilities and challenges that accompany the power of technology and human knowledge. Its influence endures, shaping how we approach the dilemmas of the nuclear age and reminding us of the implications of our actions on the global stage. Now that we have traveled together through the darkest corridors of history, discovering secret projects and experiments that have defined, and in some cases, diverted the course of humanity, I want to know your opinion. Which project or experiment has impacted you the most, and why? Do you think there are lessons we can still learn from these dark chapters of our past? Leave your comment below. I am very interested in your point of view and how these topics resonate with you. Remember, your opinion is a valuable part of this historical conversation. Comment now and let's be part of the dialogue. Do you know the false flag operations that have most impacted human history? Discover how these operations changed the history we know and live. Click on Yes to find out.